Day 4 of Buffalo Bills training camp wrapped up with a clear headline: Keon Coleman stole the show. There's no way around it, this was his day. From the first snap to the final whistle, the rookie wide receiver put on a display that had teammates, coaches, and fans buzzing. All eyes were locked in on number 11, and for good reason. His connection with Josh Allen felt sharp, confident, and full of potential. You could see it from the star talent was deliberately looking his way, trusting the rookie to make plays, and more often than not, Coleman delivered. It started with a go route down the sideline where Coleman elevated over Dorian Strong to come down with a contested catch nearly 30 yards downfield. It was the kind of play that reminds everyone exactly why Buffalo used a high draft pick on him. He followed that up with another impressive reception, this time a fade against Jamarcus Ingram, where he once again showed off his ability to track the ball in the air and win those on-and-on battles. But it wasn't just vertical routes. Coleman also showcased his ability to work underneath and in intermediate zones. On one particularly impressive rep, he ran a deep comeback route between Tre'Davious White and a safe to possibly Taylor Rapp or Cole Bishop, and settled perfectly in the soft spot of the coverage. Allen, showing complete confidence, fired the ball into a tight window and Coleman hauled it in without hesitation. There was even a short comeback route against Tre'Davious White that he won clean, gaining separation and securing another reception. What made it all the more impressive wasn't just the catches themselves, it was the command, the confidence, the rhythm. This wasn't a rookie figuring things out as he went. This was a guy who came into practice with a plan, executed it, and demanded attention. And for all the talk about Coleman's inconsistent start to camp, some drops here. Some questions about separation. Their Sunday's performance felt like a statement. Yes, he still has work to do. No, he's not a finished product. But what he showed in this practice was a clear example of the skill set that made him such an intriguing prospect to begin with. The way Josh Allen kept coming back to him was telling. It wasn't just on scripted plays either, it was during improvisation, during tight situations and moments where timing and chemistry matter most. You don't give those reps to someone you don't trust, and Josh Allen clearly trusted Keon Coleman. On Sunday morning, that trust will be key moving forward. Coleman isn't a Doidle type of wide receiver. He's not going to run every route in the book with crisp precision, at least not yet. But what he does bring is size, catch radius, body control, and that my ball mentality, especially in contested catch situations. Those are traits that can be lethal if deployed properly. And it's up to the Bills coaching staff to make sure they're putting Coleman in positions to do just that. With Curtis Samuel sidelined due to a hamstring injury, the door was open for other receivers to step up, and that's exactly what happened. Tyrell Shavers in particular took full advantage of the opportunity. He saw significant reps with the first team offense, whether it was in 7-and-7s or full team drills. It was notable to see him consistently lined up in 3 wide receiver sets, often alongside Josh Palmer and Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir also featured prominently, but Shavers made sure his presence was felt. He wasn't just a body filling space, he was active, he was targeted, and he made plays. The versatility Shavers showed was encouraging too. He lined up outside, worked out of the slot, and even aligned tightly, almost like a hybrid tight end or big slot role. That multiplicity is valuable, especially when you consider his special teams background. With Buffalo's current depth chart loaded with receivers who don't contribute much on special teams, guys like Coleman, Shakir, Palmer, Moore, and Samuel, the team is likely to need a guy who can bring value in that phase of the game. That's where Shavers has a real chance to crash the party. Unfortunately, just as he seemed to be gaining momentum, things took a dark turn on a 2-point conversion play late in practice. Shavers went up to make a catch over Maxwell Hairston and came down awkwardly. It looked like a leg injury, and the entire mood shifted instantly. Teammates gathered around him. Coaches joined in. Even team owner Terry Pegula came over to show support. Shavers was carted off, and while no official diagnosis was available at the time, it didn't look good. It was a tough blow, especially for a player who had been trending upward and seemed poised to make a real push for a roster spot. If he's out long term, the Bills may need to find that special teams contributor elsewhere, possibly Jalen Virgil or someone else who's currently flying under the radar. The wide receiver group as it stands remains fluid. While most people assume the top 5 were locked in, Coleman, Shakir, Palmer, Moore, and Samuel, Sunday's practice made it clear that nothing is set in stone. Other receivers are getting first-team reps. Steven Gosnell, for example, saw action with the ones. Meanwhile, Elijah Moore, a player many were excited about, was barely involved with the top unit. Despite his talent and flashes in previous practices, Moore was nearly invisible on Sunday. That's especially notable considering Samuel didn't participate. Instead of more stepping in, it was mostly shavers. One practice doesn't define a player's role, of course, but this was a noticeable shift. It's going to be fascinating to watch how the depth chart evolves through camp and into preseason. There's real competition here, and it feels like no one beyond Coleman. And Shakir is truly locked into anything. Every rep matters. Every snap is an audition. And with the team clearly prioritizing versatility and special teams contributions, a player like Shavers, if healthy or someone in that mold, could absolutely make this roster. Defensively, things were equally interesting, particularly at linebacker. With Terrell Bernard missing practice due to a hamstring injury, and Dorian Williams also sidelined, the door opened for other players to make their case. Shaq Thompson was one of the most noticeable beneficiaries. He got a ton of first-team reps and didn't waste the opportunity. Thompson flashed in coverage several times, including a notable pass breakup, where he elevated and knocked down a throw with perfect timing. That play wasn't just athletic, it was instinctual, and it reminded everyone why Thompson was once a first-round pick. He's always been known for his athleticism. Back at Washington, he was a true hybrid, playing linebacker and running back, and that versatility translated to the NFL early in his career. Injuries have slowed him in recent years, but in this practice he looked healthy, sharp, and disruptive. Thompson wasn't alone in getting a bump in reps. Joe Andre and Balon Spector also saw first-team action, rotating through and getting chances to show what they could do. But it was Thompson who seemed to pop off the screen most consistently. On the flip side, Edwin Yull, the team's 5th-round pick from this year's draft, was nearly invisible. He didn't get many meaningful reps and seemed to be firmly on the outside looking in, at least on this day. Again, one practice is not the whole picture, but with other linebackers stepping up and making plays, Yull's quiet day was hard to ignore. It raises questions about how many linebackers the Bills might carry. Traditionally, they've kept 6, but if they roll with 5, it could open up more flexibility in the secondary or on the defensive line. The defense as a whole gave a strong account of itself, particularly in terms of pressure. There was a noticeable emphasis on 5-man blitz packages, something that's clearly influenced by new defensive assistant Ryan Nielsen, known for his aggressive mindset and ability to generate pressure creatively. Nielsen's fingerprints are starting to appear. Linebackers were blitzing. Slot corners were blitzing. Even safeties were coming in hot, with Taron Johnson sitting out for a rest day. Cam Lewis stepped into the slot and had a strong showing, including a would-be sack on a perfectly timed blitz off the edge. Behind Lewis, Brandon Codrington got the next look in the slot, indicating he may currently be ahead of names like Jamarcus Ingram, Jordan Hancock, and T. Corey Couch on the depth chart. That's significant, especially if Codrington is also penciled in as the team's kick and punt returner. If he's going to make the roster as a return specialist, he'll need to offer something on defense as well, and right now it looks like that something could be slot corner depth. Coming off the edge, the first-team duo was Greg Rousseau and A.J. Epinesa. Joey Bosa surprisingly didn't participate in any full-team drills. The Bills appear to be bringing him along slowly, possibly with an eye on keeping him fresh for high-leverage moments during the season. That could mean Bosa becomes more of a situational pass rusher, with Epinesa handling the early down work opposite Rousseau. Elsewhere on the edge, Michael Hoy, Landon Jackson, and Javon Solomon all got reps. Solomon in particular stood out with his quickness and ability to generate pressure. Despite not having pads on, that kind of explosiveness is hard to miss even in a lighter practice. At defensive tackle, the top group remained Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones, followed by Larry Ogunjobi and Dwayne Carter. The third wave featured T.J. Sanders and Deion Walker. Carter and Walker appear to be slotted in at the one technique spot, while Sanders continues to profile as a 3-tech. Watching how these pairings evolve when the pads come on will be telling, especially if guys like Sanders can show the same explosiveness in full contact drills. Dalton Kincaid continued to make quiet, steady progress during Sunday's practice. He wasn't flashy in the way Keon Coleman was, but his performance was equally important. Kincaid was consistent, reliable, and sharp in his routes. He hauled in 4 or 5 catches during team drills, and not once did he drop a target. One of his standout moments came on a corner route where Josh Allen placed the ball between the defenders Taylor Rapp and Matt Milano. The pass hung just a little longer than expected, giving the defense a chance to close the gap. But Kincaid held firm, absorbed the contact, and brought the ball down with authority. It was one of those plays that reinforces why the Bills are so high on him as a versatile weapon in the middle of the field. The running backs also had a noticeable presence in the passing game. From early in the session, it was clear Buffalo wanted to get them more involved as receivers. James Cook, Ty Johnson, and rookie Ray Davis all caught multiple passes out of the backfield. Some of that stemmed from the pressure-heavy defensive looks forcing quick checkdowns, but even on design plays you could see an emphasis on getting the ball to the backs in space. One memorable play saw Josh Allen rolling to his left and hitting Cook on the sideline. It was a tight window, and although the completion itself was right at the edge of what the referees would consider inbounds, the connection and awareness from both players was top tier. What stood out just as much as the execution was the demeanor. James Cook, despite swirling off-season rumors about dissatisfaction, looked relaxed and focused. Early in practice, he shared a handshake and brief chat with team owner Terry Pegula. Whatever narratives might exist off the field on it, Cook appeared fully engaged and in sync with the offense. Ty Johnson, meanwhile, had one of the highlights of the session when he ran a wheel route out of the backfield and torched Shaq Thompson in coverage. The throw was on the money and Johnson tracked it beautifully down the sideline for a big gain. It was one of those moments where you could see the offensive staff experimenting with different looks, back sets, motioning backs into the slot, stretching the defense horizontally and vertically. Both Johnson and Davis were used creatively. There were several snaps where they lined up together with Johnson flexed out wide before motioning into the formation. These are wrinkles that could add depth to Buffalo's attack, especially if the team wants to lean into a more matchup-driven approach. Buffalo's willingness to incorporate running backs into the passing game is a clear evolution from last season, even though the numbers from 2023 were already impressive. The Bills led the NFL in several categories when throwing to running backs, including expected points added per play, yards per attempt, and passer rating. Yet they were just 20th in overall targets to backs. That gap between efficiency and volume is something the staff seems eager to close, in Sunday's session gave every indication that getting more out of their running backs in the air game is going to be a point of emphasis. As for the battle for QB, the reps were split between Mike White and Mitch Trubisky. And while it's still early, Mike White had the upper hand on Sunday. Trubisky, though mobile, looked a step slow mentally. He was late on a few reads and missed some opportunities down the field. White, on the other hand, was cleaner with his mechanics and delivered a more accurate ball. His limitations as a pure pocket passer are still apparent. He's not going to make many plays outside of structure, but within the confines of the system, he was more efficient than Trubisky. It's far from settled, but this day belonged to White in that competition. Tyler Bass had a rough morning as the rain started to come down right as the field goal period began. Kicking in those conditions is never easy, but Bass struggled with consistency. He made one from 33 yards, missed from 4, Ty 3, missed again from 47, hit from 33 once more, then missed from 50, before finally connecting on a 50-yarder. That's for out of 7, which wouldn't raise red flags in isolation, but coming on the heels of a relatively inconsistent offseason for him. It's something worth monitoring as camp progresses. One of the most jaw-dropping plays of the entire session came courtesy of cornerback Jamarcus Ingram. On a deep post intended for Tyrell Shavers, Ingram baited the quarterback, possibly Trubisky, into thinking the route was open, playing deep. In a cover 3 look, Ingram held his outside leverage perfectly, and just as the ball left the quarterback's hand, he broke hard toward the center of the field. It was textbook anticipation. The throw looked like it would be a surefire touchdown, but Ingram undercut it with perfect timing, secured the interception, and drew cheers from the sideline. That kind of play, especially in the context of live 11 on 11 work, could go a long way in cementing his place in a crowded secondary room. The trenches were a bit harder to evaluate due to the lack of full pads, but we did get a sense of the rotational plans. On the edge, Greg Rousseau and A.J. Epinesa ran with the ones. Joey Bosa notably didn't take part in team drills again. That's now a couple of practices in a row, and it seems the staff is being extremely cautious with how they ramp him up. It's likely a preservation strategy aiming to keep Bosa fresh for the regular season. Based on how things are trending, Epinesa might end up being more of the base-down edge defender opposite Rousseau, with Bosa deployed situationally similar to how the team used Von Miller in prior years. The second wave of edge rushers included Michael Hoy, Landon Jackson, and Javon Solomon. Solomon stood out in a big way. He exploded off the line on several reps and routinely found himself in the backfield. Without pads, it's tough to tell how those pressures would translate to real contact, but his burst and motor were evident. Landon Jackson, for his part, played hard and was constantly around the action, though it's too early to draw conclusions about his long-term impact. Inside, the defensive tackle rotation followed a clear pattern. The first group was Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. The second featured Larry Ogunjobi and rookie Dwayne Carter. The third group was Deion Walker and T.J. Sanders. It appears Carter and Walker are both being evaluated at 1 technique, while Sanders is working primarily at the 3 tech. It'll be fascinating to see how those groupings evolve as the team moves into padded sessions, particularly if the staff wants to test combinations like Oliver and Sanders together, which could offer a dynamic interior pass rush. Buffalo's defense as a whole flashed some new tendencies under Ryan Nielsen's influence. There was a strong emphasis on 5-man pressures throughout the session. Slot corners blitzed, linebackers blitzed, safeties showed pressure and then dropped out. It was a constant game of cat and mouse. Without Teron Johnson, who had a veteran rest day, Kim Lewis stepped in at slot corner and did a solid job, even notching what would have been a sack on a well-timed blitz. Behind him, Brandon Codrington saw the next most reps in the slot, suggesting he may currently be ahead of others vying for that role. If Codrington ends up being the team's return specialist, having some ability to contribute in sub-packages on defense would make him that much more valuable. Shaq Thompson was another standout on the day. With both Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams out, Thompson took full advantage of the extra reps. His ability to cover in space was on full display. He had multiple deflections, including one particularly athletic play where he elevated to swat away a pass over the middle. Thompson has always had athletic traits dating back to his college days, where he played both linebacker and running back at Washington, but Sunday's practice was a reminder that he still has plenty in the tank. The connection to head coach Sean McDermott and GM Brandon Beane, both part of the front office that drafted him in Carolina, should not be overlooked. Neither should his familiarity with Al Holcomb, another former Panthers assistant now in Buffalo. If Thompson can stay healthy, he's very much in the mix to make the final roster, and possibly even earn rotational snaps in this defense. As always, one practice doesn't decide anything, but there's no denying the energy and execution levels that were on display. You can already feel the intensity ramping up, and with full pads coming soon, everything is about to take another step forward. Whether it's battles for roster spots, emerging chemistry between quarterback and receivers, or defensive players making a case for their place in the rotation, the Bills are giving fans plenty to be excited about early in this training camp. And based on what we've seen so far, this group has the potential to be deep, dynamic, and dangerous on both sides of the ball. Before we dive back, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. Whispers in the NFL corridors are growing louder. Could Patrick Mahomes, the undisputed kingpin of the Kansas City Chiefs, be setting his sights on a move to Buffalo? The rumor mill is spinning, and fans from both sides are buzzing with anticipation at the mere possibility of such a blockbuster shift. Mahomes has been the face of the Chiefs' resurgence, leading them to multiple playoff runs and securing a Super Bowl victory that cemented his status among the league's elite quarterbacks. His blend of athleticism, arm talent, and football IQ has made him the centerpiece of Kansas City's offense, and arguably one of the most valuable players in the entire NFL. So why would the Chiefs consider parting ways with their franchise cornerstone? And why would the Bills be interested? Sources close to the situation suggest that Buffalo, a team hungry for a title after years of near misses, is exploring every avenue to bolster their quarterback position. Josh Allen has been a beast for the Bills, but the franchise's management might see Mahomes as a potential upgrade or an insurance policy to maintain their competitive edge. The idea of pairing Mahomes' dynamism with Buffalo's strong defense and innovative coaching staff creates a tantalizing what-if scenario for fans and analysts alike. Meanwhile, Kansas City's front office is reportedly facing tough salary cap decisions. Mahomes' record-breaking contract demands a significant financial commitment, which could force the Chiefs to make difficult roster choices. Could this financial strain be opening a door for Buffalo to make an aggressive push? While the Chiefs have been tight-lipped, insiders hint that discussions around Mahomes' future are more than just idle speculation. The NFL community is abuzz with debates and analysis. Would Mahomes be willing to leave the city where he built his legacy? How would a move to Buffalo change the landscape of the AFC East and the league as a whole? Some believe that Mahomes' competitive spirit and desire to win could make the Bills' offer irresistible, especially if it includes a championship-ready supporting cast. As of now, nothing is confirmed, and both teams remain officially silent on the matter. But the notion of Mahomes donning the Bills' blue and white has already sparked excitement. and heated conversations across sports media. Fans are left wondering, is this just a fleeting rumor or the beginning of the biggest quarterback saga the NFL has seen in years? Stay tuned, because if this story unfolds, it could redefine the balance of power in the NFL and bring Buffalo one step closer to the elusive Super Bowl glory they crave. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.